Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
You're listening to Serious Privacy, powered by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbart, Ralph O'Brien, and Dr. Kay Royal.
Hello, hi. So the guys have abandoned us again. So this is going to be a show with just myself and our fabulous guest, Tash Whitaker, who this is the first time I think I'm actually seeing her face even virtually. We've known each other over writing, and I am a raving fan of Tash. This is fantastic. Although we have had you on the podcast before, I believe, like the first year.
I have. Yeah, when you very first started, I was one of your first guests. Yeah, a long time ago. So it's nice to be back. It's great.
It is. It is fantastic to have you. And we're going to basically talk about DSARs. We might venture into some other things as an open conversation, as y'all know. So my name is Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy. And the icebreaker question, which Tash just learned, I don't even know what they are when we start the episode, is how has your personality changed in the past 5 years? Think about it. 5 years ago, you were an early guest on the podcast.
Oh, my goodness. Am I allowed to put the word menopause in with that? That's how much I now just threaten to murder everyone and stick them under the patio. That would be it, basically. No. Yeah, I've just generally got a bit more laid back and a bit more, a bit quieter as well. Like I do a lot less conferences. I do a lot less blitz speaking. I'm just a bit more introverted than I was. Less award ceremonies, anything like that. The peak of my year is doing privacy space, where I stand up for a day and I compare and I mess it up and I laugh and I have fun and that's it. Then I go back to my cave.
And I would say that for me, how has my personality changed? I think, and this does take a lot of thinking. I usually have a lot more answers to give me time to think before it comes to me because I try to go fast. But I guess for me, the biggest change is this past year, I've always had significant health challenges, but breaking my back, that put me on my butt for 3 months, really did make me do some hard thinking of, I'm 56 years old. Maybe it's time to stop driving for advancement and everything. Maybe it's time to slow down, enjoy what I'm doing. And I don't know, because I've always been a go-go person. Ambition, what's the next big thing? What more can I do? What extra is there to do? What else? Maybe I need to slow down and smell the roses. Maybe this is God's way of whacking me upside the head and say, I've been telling you to slow down.
Yeah.
You've now moved back to the South. You're no longer out and about around the rest of the U.S. You're now back in the South. Life is a little slower. Take time to relax, enjoy the company you're with. And then I'm like, but what if? It doesn't mean new job, but next thing to do, right? Maybe it is time to slow down. I don't know. I'd say that's probably the biggest thing that's changed about my personality is I'm actually thinking about it.
I think you're right. I see a lot of things that talk about the need to stop and absorb how far you've come because we stop appreciating that because we achieve something and then the next month we want to do more. And so, I look at that even with the billing that I do with my business. Every month I want to bill a little bit more than I did the month before. And it's, hold on a minute. If I go back to when I started my business 7 years ago, I never expected the business to be what it is. Why can't I look at that? If I knew 7 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing, I'd be like, no chance. Right? And yet, don't stop and appreciate it. I just constantly aiming for a little bit more. Like I'm competing with myself.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of years ago at IAPP, myself and a couple of friends presented the idea basically you're now CPO, what's next? Because all three of us got roles as CPO in the same year, I think within the same 3 to 6 months. Of course, they're both with Fortune 500 companies. So maybe that's the next jump up for me. But I don't see a Fortune 500 company wanting this in their CPO role. Let's be frank.
No, you wouldn't say that to someone else, so don't say it to yourself.
True. They would love the expertise and the knowledge and the personality that comes with it. Or maybe it's the personality they wouldn't, who knows? I don't know how to be sedate, and I'm not even going to try to learn it anymore. But you're
I'm with
right.
you.
It's like you get what you want. I had a dream when I was younger, when I was a young adult and a single mom with 2 kids. I had a dream. My big dream that I never thought I would get would be to have a PhD or the equivalent, an EDD or whatever. And now I have that. But my dream, my goal was to be able to walk into the corner store and be able to buy a Coke without having to balance my checkbook first. I can do that. Now I have charges that go through on my credit cards that are fraud, and I don't even know because I don't look in there on auto pay. But it's once you get your dream, it's always what next. Maybe what next needs to be how to plan for retirement.
Oh, that's my absolute, I spend way too long looking at my pension app. Way too long.
We cashed out a lot of ours when the hurricane hit and we didn't have insurance for the house, which we're just now getting the remainder of the logs and the stumps cleaned up in the front, and it's been a little over a year. It takes a long time to recover from something like that. But regardless, so let's dive into a topic. We said let's start with DSARs, Data Subject Access Requests, which not everybody refers to them as DSARs or SARs or individual rights. There's lots of different terminology out there. I will tell you DSARs, SARs are probably the most common terminology used globally that most people understand. So let's talk about DSARs a little bit. What are you seeing? What's going on out there?
Such an increase in DSARs. I know that there was a whole thing, there's going to be a DSAR tsunami or a SARnami, wasn't it? There was going to be when GDPR started and we didn't see it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the advent of AI, that's been the biggest impact to me. It's not been how useful AI is or anything like that. It's been the increase in SARs, because the amount of AI generated requests we see.
Oh my gosh.
It's mad, and it's asking for stuff which they're never going to have and should never have been entitled to. And so you're already on the back foot when you get a SAR because they've seen it on AI and AI says they should ask for this. And it's just, and they're constant. We've got businesses who might have had 1 or 2 SARs in 5 years, and suddenly they're getting 1 or 2 a week, a month.
And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Now, years ago, Paul and I invited the CEO of SayMine to come on because here in the U.S. under CCPA, we were expecting the tsunami under CCPA. And now there's individual rights under 20 other states. We've never had the tsunami in the U.S. We have a lot. And SayMine was one of the ones that a lot of companies were seeing. They were getting request after request for SayMine. And we brought him on intending to basically, for the first time in our history, now I think this was the second or third year that we did this, so years ago, we were expecting to really pound him hard and be like, why is your company doing this? You're irritating everybody. This is frivolous. And he won us over as raving fans by the end of the show because the process he had to go through that was solid.
I remember. I still do have issues with it though, because we have a separate process for those SARs. Out of all the SARs we have, if it comes in through mine, we have a separate process which involves going back to the data subject and saying, did you actually mean to submit this? And do you know what? We've never, ever had a reply. In all my clients getting all these mine requests, the data subject never comes back. It's always closed down. So they need a little process of their own. So it's a time waster to me, those ones.
It is. And now with the, like you said, with the AI picking up on everything, oh my gosh, the exposure is crazy. And for ourselves, and I will say, I usually disclaim and say, my opinions are not Crawford. Everybody knows that. Thank God Crawford knows that too. But I will say that for in our field, in the insurance field, when they ask for a data subject access request, we're talking thousands and thousands of pages. And so one of the first thing I did when I came in, because my DPO going through and redacting thousands of pages, it doesn't use that time wisely whatsoever. And even hiring someone at an entry level, say, okay, go through and look for these X things, and then I'll take it. Still not a useful time. And so we went back and studied the process and said, you know what? The GDPR doesn't say I have to give them the thousands and thousands of pages. There are processes you can build to give them the information. But this, and we said this on the last podcast as well, there's a difference between GDPR, the data subject access requests are supposed to be limited to their concerns over how their data is being processed, not to be used as pre-discovery for litigation or a complaint. But how do you determine that?
In EU GDPR, yes, and that's a recital. The recitals didn't get pulled over the same way to the UK GDPR, so we don't have even the recital. So for us, that's exactly what they're being used for. And it's all employees and ex-employees.
Yeah. Or
always.
In our cases, it's claimants whose policies were or whose claims were denied or something like that. I never get a satisfied consumer that's asking for anything, right? It's always a dissatisfied consumer. And you're not allowed to push back and say, hey, this is 10,000 pages. It's going to take us a long time to get through this. Are you sure you want this? But you are allowed to go back and say, this is a broad request and we're happy to comply where we can. However, is there something in particular that you are concerned about or looking? And see if you can narrow the scope that way.
And they always go, no, I want everything. Said, give me the lot. So yeah, about a year ago, probably, I invested in SaaS software. And it is the best thing I ever did. So before that, I used to be very cynical about SaaS software. I was like, how can a piece of software possibly do this? And actually, it does work.
Ooh, what do you use?
I use Phase Law. Phase Law.
Yeah, put that in. We'll put a link to that in the show notes so y'all can check that out as well. But tell me, I've never looked into SaaS software because I'm cynical about it.
Yeah, I looked at about 4 or 5 of them. I did a review of all of them, and they're all pretty similar. So it was the pricing structure and the attitude of the owners really that sold me. But basically, I can upload data. So I rely on my clients to extract the data. I tell them what we need. They extract it. I can then load it in. It dedupes it. It can then look at, you know how you get an email chain and you get 4 or 5 emails in the chain, and then you get the 4 emails in the chain and the 3 emails.
Yeah, the duplicate emails, which take up 200 pages. Yeah,
exactly. So it can reduce those down to just the master ones.
Nice.
Then it analyzes it, and I can go in and I can look at it, and I can do a real quick in-scope, out-of-scope. I can look at the names of some of the documents and go, okay, anything that says weekly newsletter, out the window.
Yeah.
And move them all out of scope like that. And then it starts to give me suggestions of what it thinks I should be redacting. And I can redact it either in the document or across the entire case and things like that, or tell it to keep something across the entire case. And it really is pretty life-changing. And then you still manually go through.
You still have to have a human in the loop actually looking at it and making the determination.
Yeah. And then, of course, you can just redact chunks out as well.
Nice.
Like, no, that's not personal data.
I will say that we looked at Microsoft Copilot to see if it can help us do basically the same thing, because we have the enterprise license, so our data doesn't go back and train the mothership, which is really good. So we can use that.
Yeah, we don't use Microsoft, and most of my clients don't either. I don't have many.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm seeing a massive shift towards people using Google. I'm always really surprised, and I'm not very good with it. So I have a combination of the two, actually. So I tend to use I've got a Mac, so I have Google and I have Numbers, and I have all the different versions, but it's still the Microsoft ones that I tend to push back to. I'm an Excel person through and through, whether I like it or not.
I will say that with our enterprise license of Copilot, I am enjoying it. I probably don't maximize its use. I know there's a lot of classes out there on LinkedIn and everything teach you how to maximize the use. But this morning, we were having a contract review meeting, not a particular contract, but the process and how we do it, because we use a contract software, Contract Pod AI, which we're starting to implement the AI parts of it for our standard clauses and everything. So happy to have a conversation with anyone about that as we go. But I love it when clients come in and say, you can't use any of our data whatsoever with any AI whatsoever in any form or matter. And I'm like, but you do know there's AI in our email, right? So you telling me this is AI. And they're like, we include our employees in that. You can't use any of our employee data in our comments. And I'm like, we negotiate through Contract Pod. So sorry, I don't think that's what you mean when you say no AI, but I think there needs to be not our industry standardization, all industry standardization of understanding that you're going to have AI. 20 years ago, you didn't want email. 25 years ago, you didn't want online searches. Heaven forbid no one thought about Google. This is a technology. It's already here. It's been here for a long time. You can't come in. And now I'm not speaking for Crawford specifically. All industries of people that I talk to, the same frustrations. You can't just come in on a technology and go, yeah, no, you can't use that. Business won't advance. You can't advance if you put restrictions on technology innovation. You just have to make sure that you understand what the technology innovations are and that the company you're working with has the right controls in place.
Exactly. Have those guardrails there. That's the important thing.
Ethical laws are at their heart privacy laws and data protection laws. Let's be honest, people.
I saw a message from a CEO of a company the other day that was made public, but it was a message he put out to all his employees saying, we are now AI first. If you are opening a Google Doc and you didn't open it first in the AI, you're out the door.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of, that's a little extreme. I'm not going that way.
Wow.
That seems mad to me. That strikes me as not necessarily really understanding the bit of AI
understanding
risk.
Change management either. And it was interesting. I spoke with this fantastic startup company the other day. I don't remember the full name. I think it was The Holistics Group. Right. Their entire premise is based on helping companies navigate the complexity of innovating with technology. So right now it's AI with your company. How do you navigate the change management? How do you integrate this appropriately? How do you take into account multifaceted aspects? What do they call it? A hexagonal, the 20-sided die or whatever?
Yeah.
There's not just one or two or 8 perspectives. There's 20 or 50 or 80 perspectives. And part of it are your employees who are worried that you're going to kick them out of their jobs. One, if they don't learn how to use AI, like maybe the message you just said, or two, their job is completely taken over by AI, which should never be the case, right? I know you're going to simplify processes. Maybe you're not going to need a call center if you implement call center AI. But can you not have a plan to retrain those people to do something else within the company?
And also, it's got to be like suitable for that company. I've got one client where they had someone leave, and when they handed everything back, they discovered they'd never actually opened their laptop. They had done everything on paper because they still could in the job that they had. I know.
Okay, my mouth just fell open, y'all. I know y'all can usually hear my eyes roll, but my mouth just fell open. I was like in the middle of taking a drink, and I was like, huh?
You nearly dribbled.
I shouldn't laugh because at the law school that I still teach at, Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law at Arizona State University, there is a professor there. I think he's still teaching that his assistant has to print off all the emails and fax them to him. And he writes his answer and faxes it back or tells her on the telephone, and then she responds to the email.
It works for some people, and you've got to just accept that they have skills elsewhere. And he's probably an amazing teacher.
Amazing professor.
Exactly. No one else could do what he is doing. So why not let someone do the stuff that he doesn't want to do?
Whereas I can remember back in 2013, 2014 time range, I got a contract in and it had a fax number for the notice. And I contacted them. I said, can't we change this to email? I can't do fax. And they're like, why can't you do fax? I said, because of where I live. And they said, what? Where do you live? I'm like, the 21st century. Right? Faxing stuff. But medical facilities and doctors and universities, a lot of these old established industries still fax. But their faxes come into emails now, people. Come on.
Yeah. And then wasn't that for a long time when we first started getting email worms and things like that, evil stuff on email? It was e-faxes, wasn't it? That was the one you always thought, be really careful of e-faxes because they could contain anything. And yet,
and nowadays it's still the case, right?
Still using them. But they're still using them.
And people are accustomed. I work with hundreds and thousands of adjusters, not that I work with them personally, that link documents all the time in email, all the time. Phishing for them is very much a big fear because it's not that they're not accustomed to getting links to documents. They are. So it's a lot more training that we have to do across the industry for this because AI is helping the bad people get better too. You used to be able to spot them by typos or bad English or something. And no, AI is fixing that.
Yeah. But I found it really interesting looking at the other way. So I work with a company that has a charity that has a chain of nurseries. And when I go in and talk to the staff there, they're really reluctant to put the child's data in the cloud system. They're like, but I want it in this filing cabinet because I know where it is and I know that it's locked and I know I can get it quickly. If it's sitting in some system somewhere, I can't get it. And then, of course, you get breaches like the recent nursery breach. And it's really difficult then to justify why actually it might be a bit more secure, not in the cupboard in your office.
Yeah.
I just find that one really difficult when it comes to that sort of information.
It is. And if they have it in the file cabinet, they also know if someone broke in and stole it.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas with some of these incidents, we may not know for a long time that someone's been sitting in the system just lurking. Oh, it's crazy. Okay, so DSARs, any crazy stories you've ever gotten on DSARs of, you don't have to, of course, don't give me specifics, but give me a crazy one.
They're all very much the same. It's always employees that have been through some form of investigation or some form of disciplinary. And I found it really heartbreaking because as you're going through it, you can't not read it. I read fast, so I can glance at things really quickly. But you end up, it's almost like watching a film or reading a novel where you're like, oh, I feel really sorry for them. Ooh,
right?
Look, because they did this. And it's just a plot twist all the way through. And by the end of it, you're like, I need therapy. I feel like I've been through this past thing. And you can't help that. You have to read it to work out what's personal data and what's not. And I get really affected by them.
Yeah. When I was a consultant with TrustArc, I did that a lot as well. I would read the DSARs and help coach the company on what to respond and what not to respond to and stuff like that. And I will say one of the crazy ones that we got wasn't necessarily a DSAR, it was an incident. I had worked with the company to embed privacy in their incident response policy, not just security, because you can have privacy ones, you can have security ones, and you have the combined ones, which are the bad ones. And in case y'all don't know, privacy incidents deal with data access. Security incidents deal with system access. You can access systems that don't have personal data compromised, and you can access personal data without ever touching information systems because, again, file cabinets, personal computers, they don't consider email or faxes to be information systems. So you can have the separation. I like to use the picture of Dwayne Johnson not bulked up and then Dwayne Johnson now all bulked up. They're both still The Rock. They're just a little different.
Hold that thought. Let's come back to that after this story because I find that really interesting. So keep going.
So the story was, this was someone in another country, I think it was Switzerland, who had got a malware on their personal email on the device that they also use for work. In Europe, you can use the same device for both without having to have BYOD controls in place. By the time they notified the central office in the US that they had this thing, they had wiped it. They had factory reset it. So it was an iPhone, and this was at the time when there was the scams going around on iPhone, that things would pop up and say, your iPhone is locked, you need to do so-and-so for ransomware. But it really wasn't locked, and it really wasn't ransomware. It was if you pressed on it, then they did stuff. And so we didn't even know if it was a spoof. We had no idea. They had factory reset the phone, but they had reached out to me going, what do we do? And I'm like, I'm no longer your consultant. If we were speaking about your incident response policy in which you unwisely removed all the privacy aspects of it, we would go back to your incident response policy and look at the privacy aspects. We would look at Switzerland law to see what qualifies as a data breach or an incident. And then we would look at whether or not employees are covered, which of course they are in Europe. And then we would have to look and see in the email whether or not possibly the email system was impacted with people's data. Did this person download stuff on their phone? We have no idea what we're looking at here. So I would go back to the laws and I would go back to data protection and privacy aspects of this and look at this, because you don't know if the systems were involved. And it was really interesting because then they actually did their debrief and everything. They actually followed the plan I had originally put together. And they called me later and they said, by the way, we want you to know that your recommendations on our incident response policy and how to handle an incident involving other countries was very happily used in a particular incident we had, because I couldn't advise them on the incident. And they said, we want you to know we also did the debrief. I'm like, congratulations. They said, yeah, we called Kay. No, that's not your debrief. Your debrief is not that you successfully reached out to someone who used to be your consultant. That's not your debrief. You can do that. You can do that. That can't be your reliance there, right? But yes, let's go back to the privacy and security aspects.
Yeah. So most of the time when I go into a company from the beginning, they've already got an incident process, but they haven't got a personal data breach process. Or they've got two separate ones, but they never, ever meet. And so I'm interested in you saying that they shouldn't combine, because I was trying to actually draw a Venn diagram of this the other day.
Oh, we do combine. They absolutely should be the same policy. I'm saying that sometimes there's a privacy incident that never touches the information systems. And so the privacy or the data protection team takes ownership of that. If it's an information systems incident, typically your privacy team will also help, but only from the legal perspective of adding attorney-client privilege to it or evaluating the laws to see what's in the information system. They might have to report. There's all these cybersecurity reporting requirements out there that are not based on impacting personal data. They're based on where your system's impacted, because they're looking at service interruptions. So DORA. In Europe, they're looking for critical IT service disruptions, whether it involved personal data or not. And so you typically do want the lawyer involved, and that lawyer is typically your data protection and privacy lawyer, because, they're the ones that deal with the cyber laws too. So you have that, but it wouldn't actually impact privacy if there's no personal data. You're not looking at notifying individuals or anything like that. You're just looking at the security. It's when they're combined that things get really ugly. And the privacy can take months and months and years to resolve hopefully not years, but they can, in going through the forensics and looking at the files that may have been accessed on the information system, whereas the cyber can usually close off pretty quickly. No horizontal movement, no extraction of this, no that, no whatever. We lock this down, we change this. They can close that down pretty quickly, but then investigating what personal data may have been impacted takes a long time.
Yeah. I see most breaches, though, not being luckily that big. And so when you draw it as a Venn diagram and you have some which, cover the two, it's generally the stuff that doesn't fall into the incident response one that gets forgotten.
Yeah.
It's yes, I emailed 4 people when I shouldn't have done. That's your day-to-day breach. And that's the stuff that most companies just don't have a process for, because they forget about it. They worry about the anonymous hoodied person in the
cyber stuff, the sexy cyber stuff. Yeah. Not the hardworking farm girl in the background trying to handle the data protection and privacy.
Exactly. So I found it really interesting, because we were coming in, you're trying to create a process for something that they see as being far less important, because it's smaller little breaches that don't necessarily need reporting, but it's those sorts of things which are going to lead to, if you keep getting things like that and that sort of lack of attention from people, that's how you end up being socially engineered and everything else. And it's all about the culture, isn't it?
It's all about training, because the people really are still the weakest link. It always will be. It will never change until robots replace people completely and the earth is being run by the matrix, whatever. It's always still going to be people, because we're human and we make mistakes and we work fast and we read things too quickly, or we're trying to hurry up and get something done before a meeting starts, or we're in a meeting trying to cover things and not paying attention halfway to the meeting and halfway to what you're reading. Mistakes happen, or emails that pre-populate with addresses, which I tell people you should erase emails from your pre-populating. Just have that not programmed into your system. But also have the email program to pop up. You don't usually include this person on your emails. Are you sure you want them? You have more than 10 people in your to field. Does it need to go to all of these? simple DLP tools like that, data loss prevention tools like that.
But I recall advising a company that one time, they were like, our level of Microsoft doesn't allow us to do that. All right, really? Shouldn't that be the bare minimum that Microsoft can do? You would think, wouldn't you?
You would. It should be the bare minimum. But this is how the innovations happen. It turns out in the beginning, you have to pay astronomical for this, and then it gets cheaper, and then it becomes just part of the process.
Yeah.
Like encrypted email now, DLP, what was it? Opportunistic TLS used to be the big thing. Now pretty much every email carrier out there is opportunistic TLS. So you don't really have to worry about it. Nobody worries about documenting the handshakes anymore or anything like that, right? They do like 99.9% of email K is TLS. So it should be encrypted between end to end, but what documentation do you have to prove that? If a regulator asks, can you prove that your email was encrypted from you to there if it wasn't the stupid kind that you have to put the little password in and unlock the email, which, oh God, I'm glad that went away.
Oh, I still get some of those. I still get them.
No, they're still there, but it's not across the board like it used to be. There are some things that have changed. But that's a great topic to end on then. What things have changed and improved that you've seen over your career working in, because you've been in privacy and data protection for 7-8 years now?
Yeah, so I've been in data protection since beginning of GDPR.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Which is now 7 years, is no longer new.
Yeah, because before that was all anti-money laundering and that exciting stuff, which I also loved. So what have I seen change? I think I'm still working with companies and doing gap analysis. I never thought this many years on I would still be doing gap analysis for companies. And it's still, I have 2 or 3 companies a month.
Thank God they're coming to you to do the gap analysis, but wow.
Yeah. But also I'm seeing a lot of startups thinking about it first, which is really nice.
Nice. Me too.
And I did do a lot of work with health techs when I first started, and I'm seeing less and less of that now. I tend to be working with a real mix of industries, but the health tech stuff has gone so much quieter, I think, because of the changes in the NHS over here. It's been a lot harder for health techs to get in there and achieve the great things they wanted. So there's been a change in demographic of my clients. In terms of DPOs and things like that, I think I'd also thought that 7 years on, we would have lost some of the snake oil. And I'm blaming AI because there is so much junk being generated by AI. People who claim to be DPOs putting posts out there. And I'm like, how do you think that's right? And they've clearly used AI. And it's no, we don't need consent in the UK for that. Shouldn't this have gone by now? But it's coming back.
Oh, wow. And I think when I come to privacy space next month, it's like a month from
It is a month from now, yeah. So it's 13, November the 13th, privacy space, and still some tickets left.
Yes. And I am speaking on AI and DPOs. What questions do you have on AI and DPOs since I have to turn in the slides this week?
Oh, it would be how far. So for me, you have AI governance and you have data protection. And yes, there's a crossover, but it's not the DPO's job to do AI.
To be the AI governor, right?
Yeah. And so that's why when we talked about, is it a marriage or a divorce? In an ideal world, there'd be a lovely, happy marriage. But 2 can be really difficult. To me, they are different skill sets.
It's also like the conversation of AI, my brain's on AI. It's like the conversation on whether or not your DPO should be in-house counsel. And that's an inherent conflict for that. So it's not the same kind of conflict, but it is a conflict because your AI person, by its very nature, has 2 roles to play. 1, how does the company innovate with AI? And 2, how do they stay compliant with AI ethics and everything else going on with AI? That's not your DPO's role. Your DPO can take an interest in it, ours does, and be involved in the processes, but they shouldn't be your AI governor. There's an inherent conflict of what they should be focused on. And part of that be AI, but they can't be your default go-to and nobody else.
Yeah, exactly. My first answer to any question on AI is, does this fit in with your AI policy? If it does, okay, let's do a data processing agreement. Let's, do everything else that we need to do. Let's make sure it's zero retention. You're not giving it to the bad guys, this sort of thing. If it doesn't fit in with your AI policy, then it's not happening.
Yeah. And my team owns the AI policy with the Global Privacy Office owns the AI policy, but we're the policy owner, not the implementer.
Yes.
So there's a functional owner for AI as well as a policy owner for AI. So we own the policy, they own the functioning, usually under IT and architecture and all that good stuff. They own functioning. And my DPO works with them on the committees, but he's not in charge of what does AI do or anything like that. It's really interesting. I think we've designed it right. I hope we've designed it right. It could change in a month. It could change in a year, depending on how everything innovates. But everybody wants to innovate. I used to call AI the solution in search of a problem. And I now think most companies are at least recognizing that in order to innovate with AI, they need to look at the low-level, repetitive, manual tasks that people are constantly involved in that suck their time like no one's business.
Yeah.
To me, that's your first priority. But everybody wants to go for the big one. Oh, we can do this. And you're like,
the bright, shiny objects. But isn't it weird that everyone always talks about the future of AI, robots going to take over the world? We don't see a bright future of AI, of it's going to free up our time to do something else or this. We're all just terrified that they're going to take over the world. And that's a bit scary. That is everybody's future vision.
It really is. It really is. I have to admit, like I said, I like the pieces of AI that I can incorporate into my work. I do attend and I have presented at conferences for AI for lawyers and how it really helps them with litigation and settlements and case management. I don't have to do all that. So there's not really a program out there that AI for people who do X. It's just trying to build it in again to those repetitive manual tasks. But like I said, I need to watch the classes on LinkedIn about how to make AI work best for you and different things like that to maximize it. It's getting a new phone and you use it like you use your old phone, and then you find out it has 50 other capabilities in it that really make life easy. And you're like, really?
But ultimately, isn't just the best thing about AI the fact you can turn your dog into Taylor Swift on the front of her Shogo album?
Yeah.
Why else would you use AI? That's got to be it.
You do put in it, create me an image or so. I will say that I think I mentioned it today. We were in a contract process meeting and I went into Copilot and typed in, create me a data flow chart, not a data flow chart, create me a process flow chart for contract management.
Wow.
And it just spits it out.
Amazing.
And of course, then you have to look at it and make sure it's the right thing and add your decisions in there and everything. But I even used it I was in Excel. I have to do dashboards every month for different things. And there was a pivot chart I needed to change, but it had everything listed singly. And I wanted to combine things that were the same chunks, like other should be these 4 things, and suppliers should be these, and clients should be these. And I was like, I'm not horrible at pivot charts, but I'm not an expert. Typed it into Copilot. Can you make me a pivot chart that combines certain things into categories, but make it a vertical column where each stage of it is a different color? Boom. Add this column, put in this formula, make sure it's right, and bam, there's your chart. And I was like,
do you know what? Do you know what that reminds me of? In the UK, there used to be a thing where when you go for a tube train, the real seasoned commuters knew exactly where to stand so that when the train came in, the doors opened, you could get on. Now, some of the platforms now, they've marked it on the platform. All those years of experience have now gone by this one innovation. And you're cheated. I like pivot charts. I can do pivot charts. Now there's no value for me being able to do pivot charts.
But I will say the other thing was I post my Wordle every day. I still do Wordle. I like Wordle. And one of my friends posted that he went to ChatGPT for Wordle strategy tips, analyzing what he does with Wordle. And it gave him specific tips for him how to improve his Wordle solvings. He doesn't ask for it for a specific day. What's today's thing? He asked for strategy. And it told him based on his activity what he needed to change.
Surely learning that yourself through experience is where the fun is in life. My mind is blown now.
I'm like, I never even thought about asking ChatGPT. I don't use a lot of ChatGPT, let's be honest, people. But I never thought about asking ChatGPT, how can I better solve Wordles? I don't have one starting word, though. Do you have a starting word?
I used to. I don't do Wordle anymore. My husband still does it, but I did have a starting word and it was really effective. And I can't for the life remember what it was, but it was a really good one.
Yeah. My husband's 2 words are steam and audio. So he'll use steam first. That doesn't get what he does. He uses audio because whatever. I do not have a first word. So I don't have one word that I start with, but I have a word that is always my second word unless the letters have already been used. And so my second word is always, go figure, place. I don't know why. It's not in anyone's strategy, but that's my second word unless the letters are blocked.
I've remembered my word.
What?
It was soar, as in soar above.
Oh, nice. Because it has the S and the T and the R, and then it has the O. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And that's a good note to eat on because I think we are way past time, but that's okay. I got a little bit of my nonsense to cut out. Always a pleasure, Tash. I'm so glad. And I am so looking forward to seeing you in a month.
Can't wait. Look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks,
Bye.
Kay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That was Serious Privacy.
This wraps up our podcast for this week. Please do share the episode with your friends and colleagues because we love to get more listeners. And join the conversation on LinkedIn or on Blue Sky. You'll find us under Serious Privacy on both platforms. You'll find Kay as Heart of Privacy, Ralph as IGR O'Brien, and myselb as Europol B. Until next week, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.